What did the men have to say after the broadcast ended? That's what you're going to find out on this episode of AfterWise. Thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share if you really enjoy the content. We are in our hiatus from our live episodes, but during this period, we're going to be sharing with you the conversations after the conversations. We had a great one last week. If you haven't heard that yet, check that out here. And we talked about the Passport Brothers and many other things came out of that conversation. But I hope you enjoyed this conversation of what additional tips, tricks, and information the men had to share with us after we hit end broadcast. Talk to you later. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe so that we can really get this content out to those who need to hear it. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.
Lorraine, that was a lot of fun.
Good. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
it was.
Yeah.
We had 2 hours. That's the longest one we've ever had.
We got some great guys, Tommy and Ben.
Yeah.
Tommy, I always make sure I talk to Tommy because Tommy's that guy with the wisdom. He's gonna give it to you straight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, when you start to get older, you want it straight. You don't want no fluff.
Yeah.
Yeah, fluff won't work.
Yeah.
No.
Fluff won't sustain you.
No.
I don't want to mislead anybody with anything that I say because it's hard enough navigating on your own,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's the truth.
yeah. And
How was it for you, Tommy? I know you didn't get all the pre-conversation, but how did you feel about that?
it was great. I really enjoyed. And I like the format to be able to just kind of be yourself and just to talk. It's scripted to a certain degree as far as the format, but allowing us to just speak our mind and talk. And then I thought in the beginning that it would be hard because we got ladies on and, I'm talking to y'all. But then when the fellas showed up and I knew they were there, and we kind of were talking to each other, we were answering your questions, but we were talking to each other for the most part. And it felt comfortable. I was good with that. And because Sana was asking me, you think, are you nervous or you want to be on there? I was like, no, we can do this. Yeah, so it worked out. Yeah.
I'm really happy, Ben.
Yeah. I was, if you ask me, I'm gonna come. So this is good.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and I appreciate meeting everybody else here, Victor and Tommy. You guys giving me some wisdom. I appreciate Victor. I'm learning the truth of that. Where it's like, listen, man, loans are gonna they're just gonna be. You know what I mean? They're just gonna be.
It eats at you. It really eats at you because if you talk about being a provider and sometimes those financial commitments it almost feel like a noose around your neck.
Yeah, man.
And now 24 years into it, I still got this is our fourth house. So you're always gonna have something that you're paying, right? My kids, they like, hey, I remember when we had the teenagers, they didn't want to touch each other. So we went from driving a Volkswagen Jetta to getting a minivan. So how you think that felt, 25 years driving around in a minivan? Because the kids was like, I don't want him touching me, or I don't want her touching me. So, there's always, praise God, we can actually get the loans because there's some people who can't.
Yeah,
so I've moved to basically, praise the benefit of the situation versus looking at the negative of, oh, I got 30 more payments. If I just make another $600 here, it'll be like, forget all that. Take that $600 and go on a vacation.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, man. There's been a truth in our life too. Like Raquel and I, there are like another great example. Like half the tragedies are in Michigan, but like the the way our finances were set up, like I'm not kidding, like it would be like $1. The most I think we had left over was like $10 one month, but like we were literally paycheck to paycheck, because she was going to school, so we're trying to pay for that and all of. Anyway, it starts snowing, and these guys are like, you need real tires, like not these Florida joints that you have on there. Like you need real tires, and so we took it over to a place that was recommended to us, and they're like, these guys will give you a discount, and it was still $700 for 4 new tires. And like, I was like, that's it, Raquel. Like, there's nothing, there's no way. And I don't know, little gift cards here and there, like randomly, and like people inviting us over for, lunch or dinner. And like, Raquel and I have never not eaten, you know what I mean? And the
Come
electricity
on.
has never been shut
Yeah.
off. And so, like,
Yeah, come on.
there's, and even in this, switching career and like losing the income, like out of like left field, Raquel gets a job and we don't have to worry about our health insurance, and like, and her family stepping in and saying like, hey, we're going to help you guys while you're on this new journey. So like,
Beautiful.
it's like, what does that meme where, you know, it's like me trusting in Jesus on the ride is like a kid like screaming on a roller coaster. That's been us. Like the whole time we're like, oh my goodness, like what's going on? But like we're fine. We always end up being fine, and that's something that like Raquel lovingly reminds me of sometimes, because like just recently I was getting into it again. I was like, man, how are we gonna do this? We can't go on this, not on this trip, or we shouldn't buy this, and blah 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 blah. And Raquel reminding me, like, dude, we've been fine, like, and we're gonna still be fine. So
Yeah, I heard 10 testimonies in what you just said. So
yeah, dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like that's something that we never sacrificed on. Even when bills were coming close or behind, we always made it a point to go on vacation. That you can't kill yourself at work and never de-stress or take time for yourself. So we've always made it a point. And I'm not saying you're gonna be in your 40s but I really feel like probably when I turn 40, 41, I was just like, the bills aren't gonna be my God anymore, because that's what they were. They were the most important thing, and I didn't want to hear anything, but I needed to pay these bills. So I actually turned it over to Onita. It alleviated so much stress. Like, Onita, you know what? You take care of these bills, because maybe I'm not doing it right. So, she takes care of it, and nobody calls and say we late. So I'm good with it. But, we always have, Onita is going to always have an emergency fund. Whereas I'm like, the bill come in is $500. I'm paying the $500. Onita may say, I'm going to send $375 on that, and I'm going to keep that $125, because who knows what's going to happen. So that's a different perspective of, what the way you think it should be done versus the way your wife may do it.
Come on, help me.
That's
Come
right.
on, help me.
The way your wife may do it may be a lot better, or at
That's
least
right.
it'll alleviate stress.
Onita,
And
that's called. I'm
sorry.
sorry. Onita, that's called no money.
Yeah.
Hello.
We don't have no money.
Listen, and I applaud Victor for saying, let me take my hands off of this, because maybe you can do this better, because a lot of men would have an issue with that. Pride and stuff can really just mess in ego. And I always said, like, I believe, the enemy did that in the garden. Like God said, you have dominion. And then that snake slid in and put a little extra thing on it, and it turned it into pride, and which is so destructive. It's full of destruction. It can just ruin everything. So I applaud you for saying, "Hey, babe, you take this, because I think you can manage this better."
Yeah.
And that's awesome, because
It's killing me. It's killing me. I don't want to. It's a.
And
It's
it
a
would have
blessing.
killed the relationship possibly.
Yeah.
And it could have very well, because that's where, isn't that the highest rate of divorce due to is finances. So that's awesome. We always said we would live somewhere that was small enough that if one of us wasn't working, or one person could handle it, because everybody that I went to college with, and we'd go visit, and oh my gosh, I'd come back going, I want a bigger house.
Beautiful.
I want a different house. I wanna, and and
you don't know
for real, no.
They're on the struggle. You don't even know.
Listen, and then the children were growing up, and we have a small, quaint home, but it suited our needs. And then the kids, got growing, and we were like, it's two of us here. Well, our son came back home. And then, well, at one point, our daughter came back home. I digress. But there was always there was enough room for them. You know, there was 4 bedrooms here, and so, you know, we didn't need to get anything any larger. And now we're definitely at the point where we're talking about downsizing because I just went part-time. But, you know, working a full-time job and trying to take care of a house is a lot.
It is.
It's a lot. And so, and I don't want him gone all the time, so.
I have a question. Have you all always, as men, I mean, Ben, you're kind of young, so probably this is true. Have you always thought this way? Because, I mean, you don't know, like the kind of men that I see, I mean, they don't think like this. They don't think about their wives and how they feel. They don't think about submission in the way that you all are talking about it, like with that balance. They don't think like this. And it's very destructive because if the man, and I do believe this, is leading the family, his mindset drives the family. It drives the direction that the family goes. Even if she's trying to push against it, that creates more issues. So I just want to know, like, how did you start thinking about, like, what would, if you didn't always think like this, what changed?
Yeah, so for me, it was really circumstantial. So growing up, my family, we lived in a homeless shelter for a few years. And so I used to tell myself as a kid, I can't wait to become an adult so I can make my own decisions. And I know I won't end up in this situation. So that is what really drove me. And then the conversation Onita and I had really setting expectations. So like going into it, I knew what I wanted. I knew what she wanted. I was all about Onita. So all I needed on this planet was Onita. Onita will say that, friends of hers at work, we all lived in the same neighborhood in our first house over by Virginia Center Commons. And like, I remember it like it was yesterday, and it was over 20 years ago. The lady made like a joke about Onita, right? And she went to work the next day and she told Onita, yeah, I was just joking about you with Vic, and he gave me this look like he wanted to kill me. And that's how, some people may look at it, some men may look at it as like, oh, it was just a joke, and then they may add to it. There was nothing that anybody could say to me about Onita. Like, I felt like I found somebody, I was rescued, and I'm going to do my best to make this lady's life the best it could be.
Wow.
Now, I haven't always done that, and I've heard her plenty with some of the comments or arguments we got into, but at my core, I wanted to deliver everything that she talked about when we talked about that first day. So, like I said, Onita has been the person that has introduced me to relationships and being friendly. And because, I'm usually in my mind, like when I go to church, and I told her this, and it's tough. When I go to church to me, because I'm the treasurer, is like another job. Because I'm going to church. I'm like, I got to get this. I got to get that. I got to give this person that check. So it's not really a worship experience. It's like, this is my 6th day of work. So they'll be like, Vic walked right by and he didn't say anything. And it's like, it's not intentional. I'm just trying to get to the next station that I'm supposed to be at. So like, that's how I was with the finances. I'm like, I am not going to be in a homeless shelter ever again. So that's why I feel like it was killing me. So I wish I would have done it in my 20s versus my 40s, but turning it over to Onita to say, you know what, I'm going to trust somebody to keep me out of the shelter. I can't do it all alone. So, that's kind of, Lorraine, that's kind of been my drive. Like, if I had something in my mind that I wanted to do as a kid, I saw it through, and that's how I've been as an adult.
I love that. Before someone else answered, can I say that this is the most I've ever heard Victor's voice ever in all of the Like literally, even just last night, I realized, because when you someone that you're used to talking to, even if there's been a gap, when you hear them again, you're like, oh, that's the familiar voice. And I'm just like, his voice is so not familiar to me. It's crazy. We just say hi to each other and keep it moving. And this has been so fantastic. I'm like, I got to talk to him more. Like, all right, Tommy, what about you? I know you said you made some changes because after Sandra, but like, it's a shift, it's significant.
Well, okay. And we say this all the time. When you meet somebody that you're interested in, you're not sending the real you. You're sending your best representation of you, and that's what kind of catches the person that you're trying to get. But I really believe, and I understand now, the biblical aspect of being married. She softens me up. You know what I mean? She softens me up to the place that I want to do the things that are necessary to keep her happy and to do what it is. Because men don't. You're right. Men think about everything else but that. In a lot of instances. But when you really have somebody that you meet and you really care about them and their well-being, they change you. They do. And I never thought that it would. I know Vic talked about his treasury. I'm the deacon at the church, man. I'm there more than the pastor. But at the same time, you have to keep that balance at home. Sometimes I got to ride or die. She'll go with me. You know what I mean? When I got to go over there sometimes, and that means a lot to me. And I just want to make sure that she's happy, and that we're happy together. And sometimes that means change. I keep saying I'm not the guy that I used to be. When she met me, I was hard, and I was, I can't even explain everything that I was, but I'm not that guy anymore. You know what I mean? And I'm thankful.
He was a product of his environment too. He was a workaholic. That's all he saw his dad do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't want somebody that was working all the time.
Yeah.
Right. That's not what I wanted as a husband, as a partner, as a friend. I didn't want somebody at work all the time. I didn't want to, be able to say I had a husband, but he was always, MIA. That wasn't what I needed or wanted. So, he had to back away a little bit from that. And early on in that marriage, he worked all the time. And around holiday season, working for the Postal Service, we were like missing each other from like Thanksgiving through the first of the year because of post office business, and working the night shift. And we were just like two shifts passing in the night. And I was like, listen. And then by the time we got back together with all of that, then we were in each other's way because I was used to doing this, that, and the other, by myself and with the children because we, had children early on. And speaking of early on, we had a miscarriage early on, and I needed comfort and stuff and warm and fuzzy stuff. And his, all he knew how to do was work. Yeah. Let me get out of your way. Let me go back to work and I'll fix this. And no, you being at work will not fix everything.
Right.
And so, he did. He evolved and he listened, and it mattered.
Yeah.
It mattered, because he said early in the conversation, I was thinking a few times, like, is this who I want for the rest of my days? I don't know. I don't know.
Now, to preface that, I told her when I met her that I wasn't a day at the beach. I didn't lie.
Ain't nobody know what that meant. Nobody know. All I knew was I didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, all right. Okay, you're not a day at the beach. Okay, life is full of highs and lows, ups and downs. All right.
That's all I got. I got to give it to you straight.
Yeah. Listen. Now, I'm almost 60 now, so if I met somebody at this age and that's what they said to me, I said, keep on walking. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Get on out of here.
Because I'm ready to go out at the beach.
Yeah, but at 21, at 21, I meet this guy and he was, just like, ooh, okay. You know, you're not a day at the beach. Okay, you got issues. I got issues. You know, whatever. So, but if you could have told me, you know, then what I know now, you know, about hindsight. So, it's all good. It's certainly been worth the journey. Certainly been worth the journey. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Ben, what you got?
What you got,
Oh
Ben?
man, I I think that I just had really good examples in like my grandfather and my father. Uh,
Awesome.
both of the, you know, prominent men in my life, like they're just selfless, man. Like,
That's awesome.
you know, think about it all the time. They're just putting everyone. It's sometimes to the point where like I'm like, you know, Dad, like you got to think about you, you know. But he's just both of them, Grandpa, Dad. They just are. It's always the family first. What does the family need? How can they support? Like my dad is the most available person ever. Like I can call him at any time of the day and talk to him for like an hour, you know, 2 hours. I could take all his time. He doesn't care, you know, because he's like, "What do you need? You know, how can I help you?"
That's great.
And my grandfather's always. I mean, this man is 80 and he's still trying to grind so that he can, you know, help all of us grandkids and everything. And it's like, dude, rest. You know what I mean? Like you've earned it. So I think for me, it's just. And I think Victor said something like this. You said it in the sense of like, you know, you have daughters watching you, but like, you know, other guys they have sons watching them, you know, and then I was like, and then as you know, my time pastoring, just just man, when people hear about God and they're like, this is your father, and then they immediately have like a connection to their dad who was just like, you know, beat them or was, you know, not present or, you know, just whatever. And, you know, it kind of puts this weight on you like, man, like, you know, I'm not a dad yet, but, you know, I want to be. And it's like, man, they're watching, you know what I mean? And whatever I do is going to influence how they think about God. So I gotta act right.
Yeah.
I love that.
That is so good. One of the I had some questions that I wasn't able to ask. Can I run some of them by you guys?
Cool.
All right. Did you guys just talk about emotional health? Did you guys just talk about, so this is my question, all right? So when it comes to caring for your spouse's emotional health, well, actually your spouse caring for yours, what does that mean to you? And what does that look like? Can you guys talked about that a lot? I think already you guys give a lot of great examples, but if you were to narrow it down.
Yeah, well, one of them, like I said, like there was a moment where Raquel realized like this dude is not in the right headspace. So she was like, I don't care what you say. Give me that credit card. We're going on this cruise, you know?
Yeah.
But then there are also times where like she just filled in the gaps and she let me feel, you know, and I just, you know, she never looked at me like I was broken. Like I mean, I can't even imagine what it would have been like if I would have been afraid to be stressed and show Raquel that I was stressed. You know what I mean? Or, you know, need to take a minute or just be like, Raquel, I'm tired, you know? To not be able to do that would have like been death. I mean, for real, like I don't know. People who just don't feel like they can be real, like I literally don't know what they can do because I just got to vent sometimes, you know. Lorraine's heard it a few times. I'll be like, man, you know, like you know, it's like maybe I shouldn't have done that because you come to this church, but you know what I mean, like. But you know, it's like
you're good. You're good. See, you're here now, so you obviously that didn't have any negative.
But it's like that's just how I'm wired. Like, so Raquel is great at listening, and she will also give advice. You know what I mean? And I'm open to that. Like, what do you think? And But more than just listening and all that, she will also like, you know, help. Like she literally took hours out of her day to do things for me and for the church and for all of that. And it's like, and then here's what happened. Once I started getting better, she became like, because she had taken on so much. So then what do we do? Then I stepped in, and it's like, then I'm the one, Raquel, you need to stop saying yes to certain things, and like let's see how we can, walk back on some of these things, and ultimately, it looked like us stepping away, right? But there, we did that together. I don't know if I would have been brave enough to do that without her, so.
I mean, I
And
can I was going to say, I can imagine that with her already setting that example, because you already love her, right? But with her setting that example of being that safe space for you and, being there for you in all the ways that you've described, it made it easier for you to do that for her. Like it almost just came more natural because like, it was more reciprocal. Yeah. Yeah, but one thing with Ben, real quick, with almost all of your answers, I'm always like waiting to hear if you're going to say this, because I think I remember from your episode, I think it was before you guys got married, you were talking about how important it was for her to apologize.
yeah. That was me. Digital footprint, yes.
Right.
So the context of that, if anybody didn't know what that was like the relationships that I had before meeting Raquel. Like I had been cheated on by two different people and nobody ever apologized. It was always like gaslighting to the extreme. Like, well, it's because, the sun was over here and there was a breeze, it's like some stupid stuff, And I was like, dang, like I don't feel like I'm being unreasonable. Like I feel like you hurt me and like, dang, like the least you could do is say sorry. Like, so anyway, one of those days I was just very frustrated. And I was like in the car and I was upset. And my dad's like, yo, what's going on? And I was just like, Dad, the woman I marry will be someone who knows how to say I'm sorry. And then I like sat back down and my dad was like, okay, that sounds good. And anyway, I literally don't even remember what it was that, Raquel and I were going through in that moment. But I just remember it was something that Raquel had done and she didn't even mean to do it, but I explained it to her and I was like, hey, like this is what you did that made me feel this way. And I literally expected nothing because I was like, like borderline red pill, like women don't know how to apologize. And like, and so like Raquel, she took time and it was like a few hours and she thought about it and she got back to me and she's like, listen, like, I'm sorry. I recognize this is what I did. And like, these are the steps that I'll do so like that doesn't happen again. And I just remember being like, wow. And I just like was brought back to that conversation with my dad, and I was like looking up rings later. You know what I mean? No, I'm saying. but that was literally the first time it was really the first time that I distinctly remember somebody ever really apologizing to me, who I felt like I felt like I was owed an apology, and I was like, wow. Everybody has conflict, right? But like, if this is how we can work it out, or we can kind of come together and reason, like, I can do that for the rest of my life. I can't do the sweeping it under the rug or like gaslighting. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. But yeah. Emotional health, Victor, what does that mean to you and what does that look like?
Yeah, so over the 24 years, emotional intelligence and mental health has really evolved. I would say that it wasn't very important when we first got married. It's extremely important now. I think, as you guys touched upon, suicide rate. Unfortunately, we have a neighbor who just experienced that, and I think it was due to I think people just feel like there is no other way to go, or you'll be better off if I'm not here, right? You end up leaving, I think a young child, that will probably never know their father because I think they're 3 or 4 years old. So there is no situation that it's better that the husband, the dad, is not there. And the more we take on, it just adds to that emotion. So Onita does a great job for me. If I tell her, if I don't tell her, I'm struggling with something, she has a podcast for it. And it's so funny because I drive to work. And I can say it because Onita spends a great deal of time, like she's in the shower and she has a Bluetooth speaker, and I'm like, is the phone in the shower with you? And she's like, no, it's outside. But she is, because of her situation and her family background, she sees the struggles. She sees with my family, and so it could be a word that is spoken to us that may prevent us from taking our life or from doing some harm to ourselves. So, Renee, it's very important. Whereas it's like, growing up in my community, in my family, you didn't talk about no mental health. You like, you didn't go to see somebody. Onita and I, we feel that everybody should see somebody coming out of the pandemic. You should talk to somebody and the kids too. The kid, like we always feel sorry for Taylor because she had to go through high school, which is the most social time in your life, at home with us.
Oh,
Like,
right.
I can only imagine my parents would have lost their minds if they had to stay home with me while I was in high school. So, and then they had micromanager dad on Zoom calls after he got off his Zoom call. He wanted to walk around the house like, hey, did you do your homework? And they're saying it to Onita. When is he going back to work? Because but yeah, Renee, it's so important right now for your emotional and your mental to be in check. And however being in check is, it just needs to be. So yeah, it's extremely important. And we take it day by day, but Onita gives me those podcasts that really help me when I'm driving in and back to work. Because you can lose it just being in traffic if you're not
Right.
checking on yourself. So that is kind of how I would answer that question. And it's just support from others.
I mean, I love the fact that you're even willing to receive and listen to the podcast from her.
Yeah.
Because I think there are a lot of men who are like, I don't have time for that. But her sending it to you is an act of love. Onita co-signed that, right? You love him. You want him to hear this, right? Because you think it'll be better for him or good for him.
So she sends me we're on Instagram, and whenever Instagram tells me I have a message and it's from Onita, I'm like, what did I do now? Because she got So when I click on it, it's definitely, it's TD Jakes, it's Myron, it's Eric Thomas. So it's like, we got the How We Love book, they got my whole audio books is loaded with self-help, and I haven't gotten to all of them, but I'm like, hey, Onita, I listened to this one. She was like, the one I sent you 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I finally listened to it, and this is what I got from it. So, I know round and round, backwards and forwards, she's always looking out for my best. So that's how I can actually strive and be the person that I can be, because I have, my best supporter is my wife. So that's always a great thing too.
I love that. Well, I know Ben has to run, so we just want to thank you so much, Ben. And anyone who has to go, just you go. We don't hold you for 4 hours, but like
it was a pleasure, everybody. Thanks for having me.
See you, Ben.
Raquel, next.
Man. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah. You guys will get to meet Raquel next. So
yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben.
All right.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care, man. Yeah.
But I would say even in those ones that I send you probably from Instagram, I'll comment too, like, oh, these are things I need to work on, because it's not just pointing. It's, oh, these are some new tips we've learned and things that we do, and I could do this better, and I need to love you more this way, or something like that. Especially when it comes to like love languages and stuff, how we tend to give love the way we want to receive it, and it's like, well, I can wash the dishes all day and fold laundry and all that, but if his love language is physical touch and I've not hugged him, I'm not just put my hand on his shoulder, gave him a kiss this morning, all that, then I'm thinking, well, you should feel loved by all of this stuff I've done in the house, and he's still not feeling love because I've not even approached his love language,
Right.
and all that way. So these are things that, we think, praise God, that those conversations have been happening for years now, as far as the people who wrote the books and stuff, but that we're all being a little bit more intentional about doing them and recognizing that these are things that need to be done, because the devil, we know the devil wants to steal, kill, and destroy. Period. He wants to destroy it. And this marriage union, we look at it where, like you said, Tommy, you and Vic always say a lot of times, I'm a lot like Tommy. Like, y'all working all the time.
Yeah.
Recognizing that at home you're taking care of us. But the other thing is, with that work and that divided time, the devil loves to sneak in there. That's how he got Eve. He didn't necessarily, there was a seed planted. We read the story and think it happened quick, that one moment that she was deceived immediately. No, I believe there was a lot of alone time, a lot of time by herself, and the devil whispers little things to us that can become big things. And so being intentional about what's really the priority, and making sure that we're communicating and saying, hey, this is what's working good now in the marriage, and this is what's not. What I needed at 21 is not necessarily what I need now at 44.
Hey,
so
Tommy,
definitely
Onita
God first in that.
Onita was saying, like, hey, my thing is acts of service, and I wash the dishes. The next day I brought home all paper plates. I said, I don't care nothing. I don't care nothing about washing the dishes. I want to, it's like, come on now, man, we ain't wash no dishes in this house.
Yeah, and it's funny, man, because I'm sounding like you're in my house when I hear Onita talk. You know what I mean? It's sort of the same thing, man. Son is my biggest cheerleader. She is. You know what I mean? She's my biggest cheerleader, and I do the same thing. It may be she'll send me 10 reels during the day. And did you look at the one I sent you about? Oh no, I haven't seen it yet. But I get around to it, of course.
You get around to it.
But yeah. And I appreciate
that. That's all I ask. You get around to it.
Yeah. You need somebody in your corner. Sometimes you just feel like the world's beating you up, man. You can come home and got somebody that's really genuinely interested in your well-being and everything you got going on. It means the world, man. It does.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it does, and I appreciate it. And I try to reciprocate. And those love languages and that Mars and Venus thing I keep going back to. It's real.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
real. It's real. And you learn as you go. And hopefully you get better as you go. So
you guys said a lot today that made me think of one of these statistics that I read about why marriage is a good thing. On this little printout that I have right here, it was talking about some of the benefits of marriage, which you guys have already spoken to, but I'm just going to read it if you guys don't mind. But it says it affirms what Genesis teaches. It is not good for man to be alone, nor a woman either. In virtually every way that social scientists can measure, married people do much better than unmarried or divorced people. They live longer, healthier, happier, sexier, and more affluent lives, right? So you guys do better financially. But one of the, and then it gave 10 other reasons why marriage is good for you. But the one that stuck out to me that you guys mentioned so many times is that it can save your life. Like Victor was saying, if I had to do these finances, I was going down. It was killing me. And so I didn't even think, and it doesn't even speak to like the financial part of it, and it doesn't speak to like the woes and stresses of life and all that kind of stuff. Like it was saying, that you have somebody who cares about what you eat, who cares about how you exercise, who can speak up for you in doctor's appointments, who can make sure that you're not going into that nursing home, which will prolong your life, So you guys have spoken to that so many times. And I think that's an awesome benefit of, just being in that union.
Yeah.
True partnership and friendship. I would say the other thing, I love that list is even out there, because again, we didn't have none of that playbook way back when we got married. Victor's saying he wants the financials. The thing is, too, God put you where you need to be with. Because Victor's, first of all, he's a giver too. He will give, but I'm gonna give all my money away if I didn't have him. Like as far as, I'll spend it too, but I mean, anytime my phone rings, I'm giving. And in the beginning of our marriage, a lot of times I would even give, and it could have been my light bill money. And I've been like, oh, what's so-and-so saying gonna pay me back Friday? And then Friday came, and I had to tell this man that all his life goal was, his life work was working to pay the bills. And I'm like, actually, she didn't pay me back, so I'm gonna have to da. But God sent me this person who can protect me in that way, to say, okay, babe, let's set these boundaries up. Let's have these discussions. And I would tell you, sometimes my family, I didn't know those words of, let me talk about it with my husband first, because that I didn't see women or people, my family do that at all. If you had to say that, that meant you were being controlled. You had no say in your marriage. You're weak. But when I saw, when the Holy Spirit convicted me to the fact that, Onita, your heart, when you're out there, you're open. I'm transparent. What you see is what you get. But I needed to be shielded, because with that openness becomes also the ability to being hurt. And even though I'm strong, you know what I mean? Even though I'm strong, I'm also very sensitive. I had to have this person back behind me who was a strong force, who would like hover over me, protect me on certain emotional and physical, whatever, but also that financial, to say, hey, babe, I know your heart's in the right place. But even just saying something about, just saying, did you pray about it yet? Because it's not even that God didn't want me to help this person, but if I keep bailing this particular person out, and God's trying to let them fall so that they can hit rock bottom, and and they can hit rock bottom, and they can look up to him and say, okay, God, help me, then you're not helping, you're building a crutch for them. And so I had to start, I'm enabling them. And so I had to learn stuff. I had to start saying stuff like, oh, let me talk about it my husband first. And which helped me too. It's kind of like a kid telling you, oh, I need to ask my mama, because you already knew that's a no.
Right.
But that's
okay. That's okay. Don't ask.
That's okay. Because they knew. They was like, oh, shoot. But sometimes a yes would come, but it helped me to set up boundaries that I didn't learn growing up in my family home. Also helped me to show my husband respect, that I respected the fact that he's working hard to keep money in the house to take care of us. I can't just keep giving it out to everybody else, because it can kind of show a level of disrespect that I didn't even consider him. I didn't talk to him about it. And 9 times out of 10, he is on the boat with, hey, we can't help this person. Sometimes he's ready to double it. And I'm saying, wait, but she only asked for
hold the phone down.
To soften you up a little.
Right. So, but just having that respect and that boundary, and trusting his guidance too on that one, knowing again, that wasn't my strongest suit, but that was his area when it came to that, and just trusting that, okay, let's do it this way. And it definitely helped. It shifted. It taught some people too that, oh, I need to stop calling Onita for every emergency, because it's not fair to me. We're a family of 4, and we have nobody we can call. So we're having to, we're always having to save for our rainy day. And I can't keep giving you all the rainy day fun either, but you also, I need you to now rely on God.
Son and I have t-shirts. It's a picture of us when we were younger, and hers says his rib, and mine says rib donor.
I saw that. I saw it when they were showing the video from the festival that you guys had, and I screenshot it on my phone. I thought it was so cute. So adorable.
And that's real, because we need each other, and and we work well together when we're on the same page.
Yeah. So let me say this to you guys. What were you about to say something, Lorraine?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I do have to go home, because all of y'all are at home and I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta go home. Okay.
Because I do this at the church, because they have an Ethernet that I can get right into, and I have the Wi-Fi issues.
Oh, that's nice.
It's kind of dark.
Yeah, and look, Vic up has his bedtime too.
Tommy ready to go to bed.
Okay, so this is short. No, so I was saying this conversation is good, and I'm looking forward to next week. So Tommy and Victor, act like you didn't hear anything Onita just said, because you might repeat that next week.
Yeah. Okay.
But also, I love you guys' that you guys are doing the chat and dines. And I remember when I was on the ministry call and you guys were talking about it, and somebody was just like, oh yeah, well, maybe we can have people who are dating. You were like, no, married people. But my thought with that, and I think you guys have some things in the work, I don't know. But, these conversations are so good. And Lorraine always uses the word rich. They're so rich. And I just don't want unmarried people to not get some of this information, because that was my gripe forever with the singles ministry seminars and programs that they would have, is that the information that the married people were talking about, like I felt like the married people were doing damage control, where I feel they could have also been doing is touching on a lot of those same topics, doing more preventive, you know what I mean? Education. Give us a heads up so that we know what to go in. Thank you for the self-esteem boost. We're not, the worst of the world because we're not married. That's great. We know this, but give us real life. Give us, even what's his name? What Ben just said, about jumping out the plane. What do you say? Skydiving. That we're not going to really get it until we get in there. But at least introduce it. Are they gone?
Yeah, they just keep having some issues.
Okay.
Oh, there they go. But yeah, at least introduce us to some of the equipment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. No, that's the reason that we're here having this conversation and so many other things, because you can't know, but you can at least know what the parachute feels like on your back.
Right.
You know what it feels like to ride in the plane. You ain't jumped out yet, but at least you can have and some tools that can help you to be better prepared, because everyone has said in all of our conversations over the last 3 seasons, we talk to married people, everyone has said, well, I didn't know that. No one told me that. I wasn't taught that. But it's like, well, now you can teach us, because knowing is half the battle. You're not going to have everything figured out and just like smooth. But if you don't even know that that's a thing to be thinking about or talking about or planning for, then you really going to have to fight. Like how Lisa said, but 10 years, I don't want for real. I just turned 54 on Sunday. I do not want 10 years if I meet someone this year trying to figure all this other stuff out. If y'all could just told me, like, I'm not doing because I'd rather single.
What'd you say, Sandra?
Some stuff you have to figure out, but some stuff,
I was like, I don't know if you can escape it.
Yeah,
I don't even know if you're supposed to. I mean, I think that's a part of the process. Like, you got all of these differences, and you're bringing all of these differences together, and you're making this commitment to thug it out together, and it's going to be what it's going to be, because things that may not typically have bothered you in the past might now. I mean, it's just, it's just like,
it's phases to this thing.
And then, and the journey is like, because like, what worked at 20 doesn't work at 30 or 40 or 50. Right. And so it's like you're meeting this person at the certain, whatever that time is that you meet at your stage of life. And then you have to just figure it out how to put your differences together and make it work. And that's only going to work when you share with your partner and your partner shares with you, and that communication is such that you appreciate, respect, and you grow with each other. Because otherwise,
I think that even just that point is a tool.
It's a tool, yes.
A tool, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we know we're all different. Our friendships are different. Our parent, all of that's different. But but even the idea that, okay, what you wanted at 20 is not what you're gonna want at 30, and how you're gonna be. Even that, a lot of people don't. Some people don't even mature while the other person is maturing. So now, even recognizing understanding that that's something that you have to navigate and you have to pay attention to. And how do you communicate?
Okay.
Communicating about sex and everything. Like that's not a thing that we ever learned in church or anywhere. Not this church didn't talk about it. It was no one who talked about it.
Correct.
So, other than do it as much as you want or don't do it at all, that's what the messages were. In the world, it was like do whatever you want. In the church, it was like don't do anything, and nobody knew what in the world anybody was happening. You know, when it was time to actually do it. So I just think that the conversations give you tools to be like, oh, I need to think about that. Oh, I need to talk about that. Oh, I need to have that conversation. Oh, I need to not have it with that person. I need to have it with this person. So all of those things to me are what's people. So
I mean, I think also when you have these conversations, excuse me, and you're talking to, again, we're talking about wise counsel. Like everybody's not just talking to just anybody, right? But if you're talking to people who are speaking on a particular topic, and just because it came up a few times, I'm saying it again, we're talking about finances, right? So if we're talking about, well, even in sex, all of them, when you're talking to different couples, they're going to say, oh, this was the issue. This was a strategy that we tried, or we tried this. And so then when, you know, a young person or myself, whatever, gets into a marriage, then you have ideas like, oh, well, maybe we can try this. Maybe we can try that. Maybe we can tweak it and find something that works for us instead of going in completely empty, you know, now looking at Google, like, okay, Google for real, what's going on? You know what I mean? Real people, real situations. Yeah, exactly. So I think
and ladies, just remember.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's helpful, like I said, just to kind of give us some cards to possibly play. So that's it.
Yeah. One thing to remember, ladies, is that my wife laughs at me when I said this. Men's frontal lobes don't ever quite develop like they should. So we need some help with that sometimes. You know what I mean? With completing everything, you know. But my wife and I can complete each other's sentences a lot now because we've been through so much and have talked about so many things. And I've learned a whole lot, man, without even having to be taught, you know, just experiences. So,
First Peter says that a wife's godly conversation converts her husband, and it's not just about talk. It's just observation.
Amen.
See what I said?
So you gotta drop that knowledge next week, girl.
Another two.
She will.
First of all, what was
it? First Peter.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. The conversation was amazing, and I look forward to next week. Thank you for watching this episode of AFTERWIZE, the conversation after the conversation. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to get more content like this. And until next time, make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless.